In this tutorial, we'll learn how to upload additional fonts for use within our MegaEdit products. So MegaEdit products require fonts to be installed locally on the server. For this, you need a print-ready font file. So this needs to be a true type font file, which is extension.ttf. Certain type 1 and type 3 are also supported, and the font needs to be embeddable. You also need one or more web-ready font files. So the recommendation is at least a true type or open type file. So that's a TTF or an OTF, which is supported by most browsers. For best compatibility, upload fonts in the formats of WOFF, TTF, OTF, SVG, or EOT. So please do note that even though the print-ready true type font can be used for the web as well, it is not recommended. So instead, use a special version generated for the web. We'll see a little bit further on in this tutorial the use of web font generator websites such as Font Squirrel. So this allows you to upload your original font and it will convert it to various web optimized formats. So we can use this even for true type or open type fonts. As an alternative, the font creator may be able to provide you with web optimized versions of the font. And finally, it's very important that you have the license for the font to use it in printing. And to perform the web preview, you need an @fontface license. By uploading font files on this page, you agree that the fonts are legally eligible for web embedding and printing. Okay, so the first thing we're actually going to do here is create some font categories. So as we've seen in previous tutorials covering the MegaEdit General Data tab, and just to remind you where to get to that, if you go to Catalog, Product Types, MegaEdit, and MegaEdit General Data. The third tab along in there is the font categories. And as with clip arts, masks, placeholders, and spot colors, it's just a case of generating a new category first of all. So you'll see I've already got a few examples in here. There's 3 which have come in from other products. However, this one is grayed out, the Infigo default fonts. These are a set of 12 default fonts with an open production license. You are able to use these straight out of the box. So if you don't have any additional font licenses, or you really don't think you need any additional licenses, you can just utilize the default fonts that we provide for you. And when you're actually in the MegaEdit editor, these are the fonts that we have available in that pack. So to add a new font category, I'm going to click on Add New Record. And then simply add a name and a description. So depending on how these fonts are to be used, you may decide to name the font category after a specific product it will be used upon. Alternatively, for a font which may be used on multiple products, it's recommended to create a font category per font family. So that's the approach we'll take here. In this example, we're going to create a Roboto category for that entire font family. We also have the ability to make this font category available only for administrators. So if you don't want your end users to be able to access this font category, then you can check that box and then click Insert. Next, we need to configure that font category. So if you find the font category that we've just created and click on Configure, you'll see the layout is very similar to a lot of the other general data categories that we've seen in previous tutorials. You will see that we have the font tags capability at the top of the screen, As it stands at the moment, page tags are not supported for font categories, so these options should be ignored for the time being. We also have a little bit of additional support for fonts. So due to their inherent complexity, we've provided a little bit more information for you. So to summarize what this is talking about, there are two options available for font installation. There's a manual approach and there's an automatic approach. Okay, so I'm going to collapse that again and we'll cover bits of that information as we need it. So what I'm going to do next is actually navigate to our web font generator website, and that could be a website such as Font Squirrel, which actually there is a link to this inside that information tab. So the use of this website is fairly straightforward. Each font needs to be uploaded individually. There is no mass upload function available on the Font Squirrel site. So if I just go for upload fonts, locate my relevant font file and click open. There isn't initially any indication that it's doing anything, but it is processing that font in the background and it will appear in a moment, like so. The next step, we have basic, optimal or expert capabilities. So these primarily control the number of web fonts generated from your font file. We're going to use the expert capability, and we're just going to choose a number of different font formats. So I'll just select them all. We can only have one type of EOT font format specified. I'll just go for light. We don't need to concern ourselves with the rest of the options on this page for our purposes, so I'm just going to scroll right to the bottom and click agreement. So that's basically confirming that we are legally eligible to use these fonts for web embedding. To reiterate, it is the client's responsibility to have the correct license for the font usage. It is not the responsibility of Infigo. I'm going to repeat this process for a slightly different version of that font. So if I go for upload fonts again, I'm also going to choose a bold version of that particular font. So we want to be able to have multiple different variants of the same font uploaded into our Infigo MegaEdit editor. But first we need our web fonts available for every single one of those fonts. So I've downloaded 3 font kits that we're going to utilize: Roboto Regular, Roboto Bold, and Roboto Italics. So before uploading a web font kit to Infigo, we need to select the type of font that we want to use. So you can see that the font type options we have here are matching the styles of fonts that we have downloaded. And these relate to the bold and italics icons that are available in the MegaEdit editor. We don't have to assign fonts to a specific font type. We can add all fonts as a normal type, and this means that they'll simply appear within the list of available fonts. However, if you do this, the bold and italics buttons in the UI for those fonts will be disabled. So it's all depending on how you want the user experience to be. So we'll actually cover this in our first example. We will simply create a list of available fonts rather than assigning them to bold and italics. So in here, I'm going to make sure that I'm on my normal font type selection, and I'm just going to drag and drop my font WebKit files to the upload area. I can see that all 3 of those fonts have been uploaded. Then I'm going to move down and click on Generate Font Data. If I need to amend any of the relevant font data, I can just click on the Edit button here, and that will show me some additional information for all of those fonts that we've uploaded. So this will be split into 3 sections. Now most of this we don't need to worry about. The only thing that we might want to change is the font family name for each of the fonts, as that is what will be displayed in the user interface. So for example, I've got Roboto bold up here. Maybe I want that to be a little bit more user friendly. Roboto italics. And Roboto regular. Do not change the print file name, as that will corrupt the font, and that is where we linked the uploaded font data. Click OK to save that data, and then there's a few areas that we need to actually clear the cache for our system in order to be able to view this correctly. This will not be an issue for an end user, it's simply for administrators with a lot of data already cached as we've been working on our products. So I'm just going to scroll to the top of that screen and hit front end clear. For good measure, I'll hit the clear cache on our admin area at the top. I'm then going to back out of my MegaEdit product if I have it open, and I'm going to clear the cache on my browser as well. Now, if I relaunch the product now, we won't see that font because we've not applied it to our actual product. So if I navigate to our MegaEdit products screen and press edit next to the product of interest, as we have with a lot of the other categories, we just need to make sure that that font selection is being utilized on our product. So you'll see we've got our Roboto font category now created. I might turn off the default fonts as we no longer need them. Hit save and then relaunch my product. And what you can see, if I double click on one of the text fields and go to my font drop down, all three of those fonts are now available, but they're listed as separate entries. So we can utilize them, but we can't utilize the text options for bold and italics. So next we'll take a look at linking our font options to those user interface icons for bold and italics. We can also configure our font category to make the Roboto font family a single line item. So instead of having those three different entries in the user interface, we can have it so that we've got just the Roboto line with the bold and italics functions working as you would expect them to. So to begin, we need to navigate back to our font category configuration settings. So just to remind you where that is, if you're on the MegaEdit General Data tab, font categories, and then configure your font category of interest. Now this is a fairly simple process, we just need to upload the files in a slightly different way. So to begin with, I'm just going to remove the italics and bold version that I've already uploaded, so we don't need those anymore. And then it's just a case of uploading them one at a time, but making sure the font type selection is correct. So if I want to upload the bold version, click on bold, and then drag and drop the font kit. And you can see that now we've got the B_ prefix on the front of that font. I can repeat the process with italics. Generate font data. And then the primary change we need to make here within the font data is to make sure that the font family name is identical for each of these fonts. If we want them to be associated together, the font family name needs to be identical. So if I just go for the name Roboto, and I'm going to put that in for each of my three fonts next to the font family input. Click OK. We'll clear our caches again. and then restart the editor. So our font will now be shown as a single line item. And if I select that, we see that the relevant text options are now available for selection. So in our example, we have the bold and we have the italics version. But you'll see that I don't have the bold italics version specified. So if I have one selected, I can't select the other in addition to it.